it just hit me. How many fathers are failing their families because they simply do not know who they are? And if you don't know who you are, then that means you are more than likely living on what's called a borrowed identity. So if you want to know exactly how you can go about being so intentional about the authority that belongs to you, then you might want to stick around, because this one's for you. I remember when I was young and I grew up, and here I am today, right? That's typically the story you get from people, but let me give it to you raw. Growing up, I did not have my father in my life because he was too busy incarcerated, locked up in prison, struggling with the things that he was internally dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And this went on for him for about 17 years. At the time of this video, I'm 35. I have a wife and 3 children of my own. I was raised by another man who I value and appreciate, but it's just something about knowing who you are because of whose you are that changes the whole narrative of your life. Now, I understand that I belong to the Most High. Yeah, I also understand that I came through a biological father. So when I look at my life and I look at the things that I've outlasted and overcome, I have to keep in mind that that's a part of my context. And what about you? The context of your story actually matters more than you know, because it's the context that provides the proof. It's the context that provides the evidence. It's the context that reminds you of where you've come from, what you've overcome, and what you have outlasted, because you still here after all of it. So when I look at my life and you look at yours, we will see a few things. One thing that we will see is we will see that, yeah, we've suffered. We'll also see that, man, you know what? That was hard, but I'm still here after it. But we'll also find that there are some things that you kind of just wish you wouldn't have had to experience. But then there are those who needed you to go through what you went through so that they can be served at such a time like this. There are a multiplicity of people who are struggling with something right now, and it is called identity. And the identity that most people are struggling with is what I refer to as the silent identity. Yeah, put it up here because it has a place, but we'll get to that in a second. When we're dealing with identity, so many people hear conversations about identity all day, but I'm going to give it to you in a way that I'm sure you've never heard it before. And I'm actually going to show you something, because there are 4 levels of identity if you didn't know. And if you want to see, let's go ahead and pull this up for you. The first level of identity is what I call a silent identity. This silent identity is the person who doesn't know who they are. They just think they do, based off of what somebody else told them about them. They believe the lies that have been taught to them. They believe what everybody's opinion is about them. But the truth of the matter is they don't know who they are. And the truth of the matter is they do know it. But see, that silent identity, this is the person who's just allowing people to tell them. They're allowing people to tell them lies about themselves, and they're believing it and they're denying it. They're confused. They go all around the world trying to figure things out that have already been presented to them. They just didn't know it. And that silent identity is where so many people are stuck. They're stuck in a place trying to figure things out because they're borrowing everybody else's identity. If you are borrowing identity, this is evidence of forfeited authority. And if you didn't know, you've been through enough to have authority and proof and evidence that that is not who you are. If you've ever experienced something that somebody else says, wow, thank you for sharing that, that right there is called influence. And by definition, influence is evidence of authority because they are inseparable. And if you think that the influence that you actually have is worth nothing, that is you deceiving yourself. And the person who is deceiving themselves, that's the person that's functioning in what you call self-identity. This self-identity is where the person thinks they know who they are. but they don't. They literally contrast and compare themselves to who they're not. They look at the people who have failed them in their lives and they say, you know what? I'm not this person. I'm not that person. At least I'm not this. At least I'm not that. And they focus on the least to actually maximize their belief that they never question. And that belief is they know who they are. But the thing about that is the truth sets you free. Therefore, a lie sets you up. And when you've been set up because you have chosen to believe lies about yourself, it's one thing when it takes place on the outside. It's another when it takes place on the inside. This is called self-deception. And that self-deception is what's causing a lot of people to struggle and struggle daily, because this is the person who is simply conformed. And I believe if you be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that is right there how you move forward into the next identity. But if you don't know who you are and you think you do, this is where humbling you comes into view. Because if we do not bring ourselves low, we can never take ourselves as high as we want to go. And if you are stuck somewhere and you just know there's something more for me, it's just waiting on me, this is where you have to start asking questions. Because the questions you're not asking are exactly why you are stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck, trying to figure stuff out repetitiously over and over and over again, just going in circles. And it's not necessary, but it's part of the process that we're forced to be in when we don't know who we are. See, then we move on to another identity. Now, this is one of my favorite identities, I'm not gonna lie. However, this identity is what I call the sonic identity. See, your sonic identity is where you literally are the person who, you're unaware of what you know, but you're not confused exactly about who you are. See, the sonic identity is the person who's doing the work. They become the person. Everybody has a level of valuable respect for them. They see them. They tell them thank you. They say, oh my goodness, you've changed my life. Oh my goodness, you said this, you did this. And this person is just like, oh, okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. You're welcome. No. It's okay. It's nothing. And they think it's nothing because to them, it cost them nothing to do it in their mind. But the truth is, it cost them every experience they had in their life that led them to suffering temporarily. They just forgot what it felt like and they forgot what they outlasted. So they think that when they're in front of somebody else, it's nothing. There's a proverb. It says, purpose in a man's heart is like deep waters, but a man of understanding will help draw it out. They don't realize that in order to be the person of understanding, you've had to have gone through quite a bit to develop the perspective that you have. And if you are the person with the fruit that the people are in need of, the reason they downplay it is because no tree eats of its own fruit. So if you're someone who is fruitful, you're someone who is useful. Yeah, you don't know the value of your fruit. That's why you self-depreciate you. And it's sad, but it's true. And it happens so subtly, they don't realize that they bring themselves low in false humility, thinking that, I'm not this. I'm not that. But now they're just clinging to deceptions that somebody else gave them. And you don't want to remain there because as long as you lie to you, you'll believe it. So all you have to do is literally recognize, you know what? The value that people are constantly telling me about, yeah, that's real. And it's what they needed and it's what they wanted. It's what they desired. And if I'm doing this, then that means there's something more to this. I remember I was just freshly 30 and I was stuck at home, unable to do so much. COVID hadn't even hit yet. Meanwhile, I'm hearing my wife in the other room with our two little ones at that time. And she's telling them instruction after instruction. And they're not responding to her the way that I thought they would. Because at this time, I was always busy. Dad was always working. Daddy's doing this. Daddy's doing that. But when I was forced to sit still and I couldn't get up and go anywhere because I was recovering from an injury, that is when it hit me. Oh my goodness. I've been failing my family. I've been failing my family because as she's in there struggling, this is where I realize this is what she's been trying to tell me this whole time. And as a father, that hits hard because I'm big on being what I call the if. See, if is a condition. We've heard of if, then, when statements, but the definition of if is a condition that must be met in order for a specific purpose to be fulfilled. Well, many of us are the if in someone's life because we are the condition that must be met. And if you are the condition that must be met, then that means there are people that are waiting to meet you. Don't let it be your family, though. If my children are waiting to meet me, I'm no different than my father who didn't raise me. See, my children should not have to be anticipating and expecting someday, one day, daddy will show up. No, daddy needs to be here now and be here intentionally. Because if I complain and say, well, if my dad would have this, if my dad would have that, if, they're not going to eat off my soapbox of if. I have to be the if. I have to be the intentional father that they require and desire and deserve. So when it hit me that my wife was struggling and suffering because I wasn't being the if, that's when I realized something's got to change. So when I recognize that I am in a position that I didn't ask to be in, but it's the best position I can be in because the best seat in your home is in your home. So what I ended up doing was I definitely had a conversation with our children. Because if their mother is giving them instructions, they need to be following them. Yet, it didn't stop there. I had to create something to actually make it easier. It's not easy being a parent. I promise you that. But make it easier on my wife. And if you're going to make it easier on anybody, the number one thing you must do is open up your mouth. And that's what I had to do. I had to open up my mouth and speak life, because if my children couldn't hear my voice whenever I was not at the home, then that is evidence that I had not been intentional. See, as a father, I recognize that when I'm not around, my wife still needs to be supported. So if my children are not responding to her appropriately, that's because I didn't do my part, because daddy didn't do his job. So whenever my wife and children are not around me physically, best believe they still get to hear my voice. I got intentional. I don't just talk about this voice stuff just because I have this cool idea. I live this. I literally have to create alarms so that my children have the reminders of their daddy's voice telling them and instructing them and guiding them on what to do. So if I recognize that, oh no, if I don't use my voice intentionally, then that means I'm forfeiting my authority, because that's what everybody desires. They desire to hear the voice of who? They want the voice of God. I mean, I remember 2017, I was at my previous job on the phone, running my mouth early in the morning. And I ended up having the conversation interrupted by a phone call that was coming in on the other person's side. That person was my father. We were talking, laughing, ha ha, kiki and everything. And his ex-wife calls him. And that's when he was just going to click over and click back. I said, nah, go ahead and take that. I'll talk to you later. He said, you sure? I said, yeah. He said, all right, boy, talk to you later. Love you. I said, love you too. Talk to you later. Bye. He clicks over. I found out when I got off of work that shortly after clicking over, he had an aneurysm on the phone and passed away. So when that happened, I had to make some adjustments in my worldview because I couldn't pick up the phone and call my father again. That was not an option. And I would never hear him the way that I desired to ever again. Now, to this day, what I do have, I'm grateful for. I have a voicemail. And it's that voicemail that I took and I put music around it. I produce music. Everything you hear, this is all my production. But I took the music and I put it to his voicemail so that I could hear his voice just one more time whenever I need it most. Well, most people don't have a voicemail. And if they do, it's like me. It's not in context. He didn't tell me the things that he would have made sure that I knew and heard and understood if he could never speak to me again. Well, I refuse to do that for my children. So my children have stories from their daddy. I have over 100 plus stories that I have created originally just for them. And it's all recorded with my voice. But it all started with alarms. See, whenever I started creating these alarms for my children to be reminded and my wife to be supported, that's when things started changing in my home because my voice had to be unmuted. What about you? How many fathers out there have not unmuted their voices? See, when people hear unmute, they think I'm talking I don't know. I've heard a lot of things, but this is where I get it from. I get it from this book of wisdom. It's the 31st proverb, well, actually chapter 35. This is a mother talking to a king. And he says that his mama told him, open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. That means anybody who cannot speak up for themselves and anyone who is struggling and feeling as if there is no way out. I, as a king, must open up my mouth on their behalf. I am the one who is responsible for unmuting. I am the one who is responsible for making somebody aware that there is life that they get to live. And if I have evidence of the scars on my body, that is proof that their wound can be healed. Well, how dare I go about trying to heal everybody else when my home is suffering? So what I ended up doing was I recognized that my children deserve to hear my voice outside of just some voicemail someday. And I recorded my voice over and over and over again. We have recordings. My wife asked me, can you record whole books of the Bible? I've done that. I've used my voice to be intentional because I know that someday I won't be able to use it this way. This is why I get online and I do these things that I do. But the reality is this, you can do it too. You can literally unmute your voice and open up your mouth and speak life to those who need to hear it. Because there are those right now who, if you were no longer around, they would feel like they lost their life and their mind because you played a major role in it. And it would really be painful if they could never hear it again. So me being a father, I recognize after dealing with the stuff with my own dad, it's like, you know what? Let me not repeat the cycle. So today I realized that I've been hiding. I started this journey back in 2021, getting online and making videos. But I didn't realize I've been hiding. I've really been hiding. And the hiding that I've been doing is because I've been using an excuse that I thought I had. I thought I had, but I never had. See, the excuse is this. I thought I had the privilege to take my time trying to figure out how I can help somebody, realizing nothing was moving forward. I looked around and I said, you know what? My kids need me. So I started doing more and more as a family. And I recognized this. Most men do not know how to be intentional as fathers. If they are intentional as fathers, they tend to be unintentional as husbands sometimes. Or they're intentional as a husband, but they're slacking in the arena of fatherhood. So when I recognized, oh, whoa, I haven't been talking about this. I had a conversation with somebody today that was so impactful and powerful. And it reminded me that the authority that I have, I should be walking in. I should be using this intentionally. So now I'm seeing the need and importance of opening up my mouth and actually using the truth of my life to shed light on yours. If you are a father and you've been struggling with exactly how to manage this stuff, trying to figure it out, I love my family, I love my wife, I love this, I love that, but it's just so hard, it's so hard. Hey, bro, I'm here to tell you I get it, but you ain't got no excuse. You have zero. And I'm not saying that to be mean to you. I'm saying you don't get to remain where you are because they are waiting on you to operate in your earned authority. See, if you've been given permission to raise a family, then you have the ability and the responsibility to do so in such a way that you can never be denied. You need to be undeniable. If you are a father and you know you have children that are looking to you and looking for you, then you have no excuse to not show up as the man that you were meant to be. I stopped being so hard on men a while back because I recognized that I didn't have anybody being hard enough on me. But when I woke up one day and I couldn't open my eyes all the way, and then just a few months later, and then a few months later, and a few months later, I'm unable to work. I'm unable to do anything that I used to do. And I get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That's when it hit me. You never know when the emergency is coming, but it's always on its way. Do not wait for an emergency to start getting intentional about your life. Don't wait till you think you have the right time, because you don't know when the right time is. The right time, honestly, it's now. Now. Now stands for no opportunity wasted. And every day that you have the ability to open up your mouth and speak life, you have the opportunity to do so in such a way that you will never regret your legacy. Legacy stands for life examples gained after considering you. And if there are those who literally look up to you and they're looking for you, you got to show up, especially if they came from you. And me realizing that there aren't a lot of men out here having these conversations, I got to literally open up my mouth and start helping with that. So how many of you want to know exactly how you can go about taking your voice and being so intentional about it that you start changing and transforming the lives of those that come into contact with you, or even those that may not physically meet you, but when they hear you, they connect? Because what you had to offer was literally perfectly customized and packaged just for them. If that's something that you know you want to do, especially if you are a father, if you're a husband, I promise you, the moment that you open up your mouth and start speaking the actual life that is meant to be spoken to your spouse, I can guarantee you this, you'll start seeing changes. If you a single man and you're like, man, I don't know, it's just so hard out here, I don't understand this, and the reason you struggling, bro, is because you don't know who you are. And I'm here to tell you right now, if you knew who you were, you wouldn't be struggling the way that you are. Maybe you like me. Maybe you didn't have anybody to show you the things that you wish you would have known. Maybe you didn't have anybody to give you the examples that you kind of already are operating as inside of somebody else's life. I get it, but I'm going to be straight up with you, fam. If you got your health, you have no excuse. If you have opportunities in front of you because you don't think tomorrow is going to be your last day, you have no excuse. And if you know for sure that you've been called to higher and you've been called to more, you just feel like you've been playing small, it's time for you to stand up and stand tall and get so intentional about what belongs to you that you accept the authority that has been assigned to you. I tell people all the time, whether you woke up on purpose or not, you still woke up with purpose attached to your life. The question is, what you gonna do with it? Are you willing to sound like the experts you probably already are? Are you willing to walk in the authority that you actually have? Are you willing to be the individual that people can look to and see like, oh my goodness, there's more to life than what I thought? Because of your story? Because of the evidence and the proof of your fruit? Because if you know 100%, hey, I can be better, I can do better, I can have better, I can do all of these things, then I'm for you. If you're a father and you know, listen, I've been dropping the ball, it's time for me to get more intentional, then I'm for you. If you're a mother, I promise you, sweetheart, I guarantee you, the things that you need to know the most is that you got this. And if you have life that has came through you, the purposes attached to you are beyond your comprehension. And I'm here for you too. I'm really all about family at the end of the day. And being the if is being an intentional family as well. But one thing I do know is somebody has to open up their mouths and unmute themselves to tell you the truth. And when I tell you, there are more people that are unaware of their authority than there are the people that do. And I'm here to unmute you, make you hear, help you to see, recognize the silenced authority that you got to do something about. Because just because you're making money don't mean you unmute it. Just because you think everything is going good and well don't mean you unmute it. Sometimes things are going so well that you think you don't have anything to say. And there's somebody that's looking for you. They're waiting on you. And it's time for you to unmute. Look, I'll be back. I got something special coming up on October 2nd, and I want to make sure that I invite as many people as possible to it, because at the end of the day, you only get one chance to be intentional with the one life you got. And if you're going to do anything with it, it's going to 100% be surrounded with and by your voice. Unmute yourself and allow me to help you do it. Much love, y'all. Talk to you soon.